Yeah. Get twisted Sundays is about to be epic.
Look, I get it rocking like a cradle. I never sold cane, but I was able to see my partners make thorough bread without the stable, while packing something fatal that make it top spin like dreidels. Ooh, I hung around them shells like April. Oatmeal, oatfield. Me when I get to saying it's so real. Folk will think that it's entertaining till them shots fly, no subliminal. That's the plight of aggravated aboriginals. My whole life I've been congregating with criminals. I swear I graduated with just minimal effort. Lectures to me was just receive better from the king of Bedford. Stop vexing. I swear Biggie taught me lessons. My guess is his propensity for excellence might not get discussed by the adolescents, but I'm blessed with, yeah, the gift of carrying torches. Sometimes I get nervous as a suitor that's entering courtship. Ooh. Then I get to feeling euphoric. Holy flow, every bar low-key should be penned in the Torah. Ooh. And look at that, she's so gorgeous. She be with me whether I was flipping a Tesla or Taurus. Ooh. I'm a mess on my horror, but I've been blessed kinda sorta. Every bar brick and mortar. Can't sing, but I'm known to finesse on the chorus. You can't see the flow unless you using the eye of Horus. Ooh.
Hey look, now that I've got your attention, peep game.
Ooh.
If you was whack and you came up with some paper, he's still lame.
Yeah.
Live by, die by the G code every day. It ain't a game.
I promise you it's different.
So don't compare how you move to the real. It ain't the same.
One time for the West though. 2 times for the youngin' with the best flow. Lame ducks be like, what pond you from? I tell them parts where they blow harder than when monsoons come. And they chase cheese, only dipping when that fondue come. And run that bass till they heart go out just like John Q's son. Hey look, this for my partners who low-key pitching without a mound. And those that laughed at me when I stayed at my mama house. My pocket's fatter now, my mama see something to brag about. And I spit punches and bunches like I'm Marvin Hagler now. Ooh. Swear it feel marvelous. Remember times my mama barbered us, made us look barbarous. The hood part of us, that pistol fire, don't startle us. Got the heart of Spartacus, treat Gentiles like Barnabas. That means with love, difference between us. Fake bar, leave all, and conceive us of the truth is they ain't different. These sacrilegious folk with you long as your paint dripping. But when you jammed up in traffic, they get the lane switching. Ooh. Haters don't feel you till your name mentioned. Scripture tell me no one excluded when rain dripping. We all part of the picture, it's just our frames different. And I still ride for my set, I just bang different. Ooh.
Yeah. Get twisted Sundays is about to be epic.
Look, I get it rocking like a cradle. I never sold cane, but I was able to see my partners make thorough bread without the stable, while packing something fatal that make it top spin like dreidels. Ooh. I hung around them shells like April. Oatmeal, oatfield. Me when I get to saying it's so real. Folk will think that it's entertaining till them shots fly, no subliminal. That's the plight of aggravated aboriginals. My whole life I've been congregating with criminals. I swear I graduated with just minimal effort. Lectures to me was just receive better from the king of Bedford. Stop vexing. I swear Biggie taught me lessons. My guess is his propensity for excellence might not get discussed by the adolescents, but I'm blessed with, yeah, the gift of carrying torches. Sometimes I get nervous as a suitor that's entering courtship. Ooh. Then I get to feeling euphoric. Holy flow, every bar low-key should be penned in the Torah. Ooh. And look at that, she's so gorgeous. She be with me whether I was flipping a Tesla or Taurus. Ooh. I'm a mess on my horror, but I've been blessed kinda sorta. Every bar brick and mortar. Can't sing, but I'm known to finesse on the chorus. You can't see the flow unless you using the eye of Horus. Ooh.
Hey look, now that I've got your attention, peep game.
Ooh.
If you was whack and you came up with some paper, he's still lame.
Yeah.
Live by, die by the G code every day. It ain't a game.
I promise you it's different.
So don't compare how you move to the real. It ain't the same.
1 time for the West though. 2 times for the youngin' with the best flow. Lame ducks be like, what pond you from? I tell them parts where they blow harder than when monsoons come. And they chase cheese, only dipping when that fondue come. And run that bass till they heart go out just like John Q's son. Hey look, this for my partners who low-key pitching without a mound. And those that laughed at me when I stayed at my mama house. My pocket's fatter now, my mama see something to brag about. And I spit punches and bunches like I'm Marvin Hagler now. Ooh. Swear it feel marvelous. Remember times my mama barbered us, made us look barbarous. The hood part of us, that pistol fire, don't startle us. Got the heart of Spartacus, treat Gentiles like Barnabas. That means with love, difference between us. Fake bar, leave all, and conceive us of the truth is they ain't different. These sacrilegious folk with you long as your paint dripping. But when you jammed up in traffic, they get the lane switching. Ooh. Haters don't feel you till your name mentioned. Scripture tell me no one excluded when rain dripping. We all part of the picture, it's just our frames different. And I still ride for my set, I just bang different. Ooh.
This episode of the Cab Grand Rising Show is brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. For the first-time visitors who may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly is, Autochthonous Assembly, or A2 for short, is a gathering of minds that do the work. A2 is a non-profit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous Americans' voices by using genealogy, also known as family history or family tree. Genealogy is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages in history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Autochthonous Assembly's core values are the foundation of its company, essential to its success, and serves as the lens through which it evaluates every business decision. The core values are integrity, know and do what is right, respect, treating others the way you want to be treated, responsibility, embrace opportunities to contribute, servant leadership, serve the common good. Along with a key emphasis on genealogy, A2 is also committed to providing our communities with information and access to available grants and funding through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the United States Department of Agriculture, the Farm Service Agency, and other departments and agencies that offer programs to help them become self-sufficient. Building on a strong community reputation, Autochthonous Assembly continues to strengthen the growth of the relationship and development of our communities. Peace and Grand Rising.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
Now we're live. Grand Rising, peace, peace, peace. How's everyone doing this rising? How's it going over there, Gabrielle?
Grand Rising, man, look. Them hot links for hot links for hot links. How you doing?
Put that sausage down. That's gross.
It's turkey bacon.
My bad, y'all. Had Chromebook
Say,
sessions.
gotcha,
Rising.
Charles.
So I'm kind of in and out. Mic check.
1 2 1 2. You can hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you. I was just about to say, that's what a burgers. You said in and out. Yeah, okay, never mind.
How's everything going this rising, no sellout?
It's a teaching day. It's a teaching day. Chromebook.
Oh, I'm lucky. Their last day was what? Wednesday. Last week.
Man, we ain't got no definitive last day, or maybe I ain't look it up. I'm gonna find out because I need to know.
Yeah, they already did graduations and everything this weekend past.
Well, y'all a week, a whole month ahead of us anyway.
What are you scheduled on the same time as North Carolina?
Who?
You?
I don't know. I live in Virginia. I don't supposed to know what time North Carolina's going.
The children tell me
Look at it
when
there.
they go to school. The children tell me. I don't know.
Yeah, school out down here.
Well, the North Carolina children didn't tell me when they go to school.
Yeah, because let's see, North Carolina is a week behind South Carolina.
Nope. I ain't even got brain space for half the stuff up there. Nope. Nope.
It seems we have another good one that's rising. The Carlisle Indian Industrial School. An industrial school.
Industrial? It sound like industry.
All I want to say, double cousin, is I'm going to leave it up to you to say what hot links get clicked, because I ain't already clicked through hot links and we won't make it. We will not make it with me. Not today. Not today.
It's going to have to be up to Bones then. It ain't going to be up to me.
Man, look.
Let me grab this link and post it in the chat. All right, link is in the chat. About to pull it up on screen, and whenever you're ready.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Carlisle Indian Industrial School. The United States. Okay, the United States Indian Industrial School in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, generally known as Carlisle Indian Industrial School, was the flagship Indian boarding school in the United States from 1879 through 1918. All the school's property, known as the Carlisle Barracks, is now part of the U.S. Army War College. That's interesting, Bones.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm remembering correctly, and correct me if I'm remembering incorrectly, did we read on someone who went to college here and then got a prominent position in Africa?
You are correct.
Oh, okay. So the boarding school in Pennsylvania got transitioned into an army college, a military college?
A U.S. Army War College.
Correct.
Stick a pin in it. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Okay. See, I'm telling you, look, because there's some years that are kind of overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, I got some other questions too, so I'll put a pin in it.
Oh, we definitely will be back to it.
All right. Founded in 1879 under U.S. governmental authority by General Richard Henry Pratt, then a captain. Hold on. Caught an eyelash. Hold on. Okay. Carlisle was the first federally funded off-reservation Indian boarding school. Consistent with Pratt's belief that Native Americans were equal to European Americans, the school strove to immerse its students into mainstream Euro-American culture, believing they might thus become able to advance themselves and thrive in the dominant society. In this period, many white Americans believed that the only hope for Native Americans, their population declining in numbers, was rapid assimilation into white culture. After witnessing the initial success of the Indian students at Hampton Normal and Agriculture School, General Richard Henry Pratt decided to establish the first all-Indian school, Carlisle, in 1879 in a renovated military barracks. Interesting. So it just went back to what it originally was, right?
Correct.
Now, okay, just real quick. Can I read the highlight? Okay. Hampton University.
Yeah, Hampton University, yeah.
Is a privately, historically Black university in Hampton, Virginia. It was founded in 1868 by Black and white leaders of the American Missionary Association after the American Civil War to provide education to freedmen. Just a little quick little insert. I just want to. Okay.
Yep, a little quick history on Hampton.
Yeah, you messed me up. You messed me up this rising. You messed me up this rising. As at Hampton, arriving students were shorn off. Shorn? Is that right? shorn off their long hair, and even their names were changed. However, unlike Hampton, whose purpose was to return assimilated, educated Indians to their people, Carlisle meant to turn the school into the ultimate Americanizer. At Carlisle, Pratt attempted to kill the Indian, save the man through
There you
any,
go.
huh?
No, there go that phrase.
By any means necessary. I'm sorry, through any means necessary. Oh man, that's it.
It's not like it changed the definition either way.
Oh, but that quote right there just hit me with, okay, you know what?
Now, we'll talk about it.
Man, hold on.
It ties in.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Polar opposites. Oh no.
Can't have one without the other.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm reading. Beyond a typical military regimen, Pratt was known to use corporal punishment on students who exhibited native behaviors to help students become dependent only on themselves.
Basically, boot camp.
Right. Exactly. Which, I mean, psychologically.
What are they doing boot camp? Break you down.
Yep.
Rebuild you how they want you.
Carlisle became the model for 26 Bureau of Indian Affairs boarding schools in 15 states and territories. I just want to pause right there real quick and reread that. Carlisle, huh?
No, I was just saying, please do.
So Carlisle became the model for 26 Bureau of Indian Affairs boarding schools in 15 states and territories, plus hundreds of private boarding schools sponsored by religious denominations.
Again, multiple entities had their hands in it.
Correct. It has been designated a National Historic Landmark from 1879 until 1918. Over 10,000 Native American children from 140 tribes attended Carlisle. However, according to one source, only 158 students graduated.
So what happened to the rest?
Tribes with the largest number of students included the Lakota, Ojibwe, Seneca, Oneida, Cherokee, Apache, Cheyenne, and Alaska Native. The Carlisle Indian School exemplified progressive era values.
There go that term again, progressive. Move it forward.
Oh, give me a second, sorry.
No problem. It goes on to state that some Native Americans believed that Carlisle provided an excellent education. Carlisle and similar schools remain deeply controversial. Many Native Americans say they forced children to leave their families at young ages, giving up their indigenous cultures, languages, religious and spiritual beliefs, and even their names. thus doing untold psychological damage to generations of Native people. Since the 19, you said something?
Oh, no. I'm paying attention to the psychological part.
Mm-hmm. Since the 1970s, Native American nations have founded their own schools and colleges, thus regaining control of their children's education.
Now, I got a question. Well, you know what? We're still.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. So, yesterday, Friday, okay, to hear that a military school, a military war college, was the example that the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, they use that model. So you got over 10,000 that they've calculated, give or take, 10,000 children. And out of those 10,000 children, only 158 students graduated. Like,
not to remember, these were children that were taken and removed from their tribes.
right. So,
And not to mention all the private schools and religious institutions that were doing the same thing.
right.
We know that number is way more than 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm-mm.
I mean, they're saying this, it's saying, they took these children from 140 tribes.
Yep.
And this went on from 1879 to 1918.
Mm-hmm. See how you get the military?
Yeah. Because it's saying that initially they were going to send them back, but they didn't. They changed their mind. No, we're not sending them back.
Yeah, the Carlisles, they wasn't sending them back.
Right.
They were basically reprogramming them, basically military purposes or whatever they had in mind. Well, mainly military, because it started as a barracks and it went back to it. And in a sense, it was a form of boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of these children, if you follow them, served in the military. But there's more.
Yes, they did. Founding Richard Henry Pratt. At Fort Marion, Florida in the 1870s, Pratt introduced classes in the English language, art, guard duty, and craftsmanship to several dozen Native American prisoners selected from among those who had surrendered in the Indian Territory at the end of the Red River War. Okay. Red River War was a military campaign launched by the United States Army in 1874 to displace the Comanche, Kiowa, Southern Cheyenne, and Arapaho Native American tribes from the Southern Plains and forcibly relocate the tribes to reservations in Indian Territory. The program became well known. The program became well known. Distinguished visitors began to visit from all over the country. The U.S. Commissioner of Education came to see firsthand what Pratt was doing. as did the president of Amherst College. Ooh. Whoa. Pratt's Fort Marion program convinced him that distant education was the only way to totally assimilate the Indian. He wrote, "The Indian is born a blank like all the rest of us. Transfer the savage born infant to the surroundings of a civilization and he will grow to possess a civilized language and habit." Whitmer writes, "If all men are created equal, then why were blacks segregated in separate regiments and Indians segregated on separate tribal reservations? Why weren't all men given equal opportunities and allowed to assume their rightful place in society? Race became a meaningless abstraction in his mind." Pratt believed an industrial school model similar to Hampton would be useful for educating and assimilating Native Americans. "Give me 300 young Indians and a place in one of our best communities and let me prove it. Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania has been abandoned for a number of years. It is in the heart of fine agriculture country. The people are kindly disposed and long free from the universal border prejudice against Indians." Pratt and his supporters successfully lobbied Congress to establish the off-reservation boarding school for Native Americans at the historic Carlisle Barracks in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Pratt founds Carlisle Indian Industrial School. By 1879, Captain Richard Henry Pratt had recruited the first students from Carlisle Indian Industrial School. 82 boys and girls arrived one night at midnight on the eastern edge of Carlisle and were met at the railroad station by hundreds of local residents who escorted them to the old barracks.
Whole town, basically a military town.
This is popping up a word, and you know what? Okay. The Carlisle Indian School formally opened on November 1st, 1879, with an enrollment of 147 students. Wait, I'm confused. What?
No, when it first opened up, enrollment day, 147 students.
Okay, this is October 79, the 80. Okay. The youngest was 6 and the oldest was 25. What? But the majority were teenagers. 2/3 were the children of Plains Indian tribal leaders. The first class was made up of 84 Lakota, 52 Cheyenne, Kiowa, and Pawnee, and 11 Apache. The class included a group of students from Fort Marion who wanted to continue their education with Pratt at Carlisle. Pratt believed Native Americans were the equal of whites and founded Carlisle to immerse their children in white culture and teach them English, new skills, and customs in order to help them survive. After the end of Great Sioux War in 1877, the Lakota people were impoverished, harassed, and confined to reservations. Many believed that Native Americans were a vanishing race whose only hope for survival was rapid cultural transformation. Thus, the U.S. government urgently sought a progressive educational model to rapidly assimilate Indians into white culture. Whether this could be achieved and how rapidly it could be done was unknown. Pratt believed he could make use of the Carlisle facility. He thought its proximity to officials in Washington, D.C. would help him educate officials about the Indian capacity for learning. Culture at Carlisle. As part of Pratt's curriculum in culture and language immersion, the school students were expected to learn English. School officials also required students to take new English names, either by choice or assignment. This was confusing, as the names from which they had to choose had no meaning for them. Luther Standing Bear was one of the first students to arrive when Carlisle opened its doors in 1879. Question? And correct me if my memory is wrong. Luther Standing Bear wrote several books, one of which was Indian Life as a Child, right?
Which he wouldn't know because he was kidnapped as a child.
Correct.
And Luther Standing Bear is the name that he was given.
Got you.
Not an actual, what would we say, indigenous Indian name?
Right. Got you. Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of them names that people take on to thinking now are indigenous, no. Those were American military given names.
Got you.
Think about it.
Yep. He was asked to choose a name from a list on the wall. He randomly pointed at the symbols on the wall, thus renaming himself Luther, and his father's name then became his surname. Oh.
When I was telling you, a lot of times the last name is their original first name. And the first thing you see is a given name, a title.
Yeah.
Starting to clear up a little bit more?
Yeah. The children were also forced to change their manner of dress and give up traditional Indian ways. The boys' long hair was cut short in Euro-American style, and students were given school uniforms and American-style clothing, with dresses being provided for the girls. Luther later reported, "The civilizing process at Carlisle began with clothes. Whites believed the Indian children could not be civilized while wearing moccasins and blankets. Their hair was cut because in some mysterious way, long hair stood in the path of our development. They were issued the clothes of white men. High collar, stiff bosomed shirts and suspenders fully 3 inches in the width were uncomfortable. White leather boots caused actual suffering." Standing Bear later wrote that red flannel underwear caused actual torture. He remembered the red flannel underwear as the worst thing about life at Carlisle. Oh, those thermal underwear?
Yeah, flannel. You know that stuff we wear as shirts?
Yeah.
It kids underwear, I bet.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, those children who arrived at Carlisle able to speak some English were used by school officials as translators. They also sometimes took advantage of the children's traditional respect for their elders to get them to inform on their peers' misbehaviors. They also sometimes took advantage of the children's traditional respect for their elders to get them to inform on their peers' misbehaviors. This was consistent with accepted practice in large families of the time, where older children were often required to care for and discipline their younger siblings.
Makes you think how many things we have adopted that's not our culture.
Oh, it's happening now. It's there right now. Right now. I'm my mind is flood. Oh. School discipline was strict and consistent, according to the military tradition, with students facing court-martial for serious cases. Court-martial, that means you're hold on.
Yeah.
That means you're enlisted in the military.
Correct. So what is this again?
So, as young as 6 years old, was enlisted in the military, is what I'm hearing.
Where did they get the military from again? Kidnapped them and raised them. Think about it. How did you get a military for World War One? How did you have a base for a military? Everybody that went didn't just get drafted. You had to have people there teaching them, showing them. You had to have leaders already. So where did these people come from? It's a good way to hide, thousands of Indian children real quick. When an Indian came out, U.S. military men with no history or who they were before, new names. So even if you did say Indian, it was a whole created culture of Indian that was given to them.
Question.
Even down to their names.
Oh, question. Remember a while back when we were reading on people who enlisted in the military, knew that they were Indian, but they didn't come from any school. They would not enlist unless they were put in as Indian. They wouldn't denounce their
And they were charging them, yeah.
Now, wouldn't that be that, because this has also happened around the same time that the title of it went from Indian to Negroid to Black, right? So, when you convince a child that one is not the same, oh my goodness.
See, this is how it's done. See, for the assimilation, they didn't need to assimilate the adults.
Right.
To assimilate the children, because eventually these children become adults, but they're programmed in European culture. So now they're going to raise their families in European culture, and then their families in European culture. Now you get a version of an Indian that was completely created and manipulated by European culture.
Right.
And save the man.
Right.
So now you have to put your hands on no more. You done groomed whole generations, and now they do it to themselves.
Elaine Goodell Eastman. Who had supervised Indian education in the West, wrote of Carlisle that organizing Indian boys into squads and companies appealed to their warrior traditions, and that typically they complied because they wanted to earn officers' rank, recognition, and privileges. She also observed that there was genuine affection between the captain and the students. Children who could not adjust at Carlisle eventually returned to their families and homes. Some ran away because of being homesick and unhappy. Several years after one young man ran away, he approached Pratt in the lobby of the New York hotel. He explained that he had found himself a good job, was working hard, and had saved money. "Hooray," the captain exclaimed. "I wish all my boys would run away."
Why wouldn't he? Not if you raised them and you programmed them and they went back home and they took this new learned culture, tactics, and skills back to tribal areas and spreaded it.
Right. In November 1878, Pratt was ordered by the War Department to report to the Secretary of the Interior for Indian education duty, then to proceed to Dakota Territory and recruit Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota students for the new school. Now, the Interior... Okay. These tribes were selected by Commissioner of Indian Affairs Ezra Hyatt because of their resistance to the United States government's desire for their protected land. Nope. The tribes were selected by Commissioner of Indian Affairs Ezra Hyatt because of their resistance to the United States government's desire for their protected land.
So you see what they did?
Yep.
Selected these tribes, went in, took the children, raised the children, imprint them how you want, then you can send them back, and eventually these same children work with the United States.
Yep.
They become, remember what they said, the majority of these children were what? Children of chiefs.
Yep.
So eventually some of these children would become what? A chief.
Yeah.
But now if he was never raised in his tribal ways and he was raised on a military barracks, what do you think he's going to do when he becomes chief?
And when was the desolation of tribes? When was it
When they started again, back at the top of the 1900s, enough time for these people to be in place.
And it said of the 140 tribes, hold on, let me make sure I say this correct. Of the 10,000 Native American children from 140 tribes, most of which, and I'm trying to get back to the number it gave, most of which were chiefs' children. So these were siblings. This wasn't just one child from one chief.
Correct. So now look at the implications when you raise them and you teach them everything they know. So what if they go back? They don't know anything. Everything they know, they were taught.
You've just trained them, programmed them to give up the lands, give up the tribes, give us.
Exactly.
Children are innocent and children are very impressionable.
I mean, don't to this day, you put your children in school at a young age and they get educated and programmed to think a particular way. The majority of the time, it's not your agenda. It's an agenda from a corporation or a company that has financed particular books for their narrative. Don't you see it happening now still?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just talking in general.
Oh, no. I agree. I remember my daughter in elementary school. She came home because of the teacher teaching some stuff in class. And she said, "Mom, do Indians still exist?" I said, "Go look in the mirror." She said, "Huh?" I said, "You living, right?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay. What's the problem?" Just that question alone threw me. What are they teaching? So, okay. I'm reading. This order was handed down less than 3 years after Lakota warriors and their allies had defeated Custer and the U.S. 7th Cavalry Regiment at the Little Bighorn.
Buffalo Soldiers.
The War Department ordered that Pratt, hold on, I think I read that wrong. Let me start over. The War Department, nope,
Hold on,
that's war.
before you go in there. These are military training facilities. We know this, right?
Right.
The Buffalo Soldiers, you know, the U.S. 27 Cavalry, 2nd, 24th, 25th, Buffalo Soldiers, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's a good chance that a lot of these Buffalo Soldiers are kidnapped Indian children for military purposes.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to highlight that there's a good chance that a lot of your Buffalo Soldiers would kidnap Indian children. And I say that because when you know the history of the Buffalo Soldiers and you look at them and people try to tell you they something else, you like, that ain't gonna fly.
Right. The War Department ordered that Pratt go to Red Cloud, Oglala, and Spotted Tail, Sikangu, to compel chiefs to surrender their children. What? To compel chiefs to surrender their children? The government believed that by removing the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota children from their home, they would have leverage against the tribes in their attempt to acquire tribal land. This strategy was reaffirmed by Pratt when he said that the children would be hostages for the good behavior of the people.
So that means you kidnapped them. You ain't saying hostage if somebody gave you their child. That's straight up kidnap.
Hold on. The War Department ordered that Pratt go to Red Cloud, Oglala, and Spotted Tail, Sikangu, to compel chiefs to surrender their children. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Pratt persuaded tribal elders and chiefs that the reason the Wichichu, Lakota word for white man, loosely translates to land taker, had been able to take their land. Pratt persuaded tribal elders and chiefs that the reason the Wishichu had been able to take their land was that the Indians were uneducated. He claimed that the natives were disadvantaged by being unable to speak and write English, and that if they had the knowledge, they might have been able to protect themselves. Pratt used this speech to convince Chief Spotted Tail to send his children, who was at first skeptical of relinquishing his children to the government that had stolen native land and violated their treaties. Oh my goodness.
Look at it this way. It's like he went there like, hey, you seen what happened to them over there? Now check this out. If you let me get your children, you know, I can teach them how to speak English and how to negotiate and this and that, so that don't happen to you.
And this is after having the conversation that the children will be hostages for good behavior of the people.
And I'm just gonna say this, something to think about. This is 1878 when they're doing this, right? And they're on the West right now doing this. Plains in the West. So I wonder what children they perfected this on when they was on the South, East.
Yeah, that is absolutely something to think about.
Again, where did they get the military from? They didn't come here with soldiers. Where did they get them from?
Right.
They were already allied with particular tribes. If they know this can work on the Plains Indians and the Western Indians, how did they know it can work? Because they did it to our ancestors that was on the southeastern side and the northeastern side already. This is how they built their military, and this is how they expanded their military.
Right. Mm, 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 mm. Spotted tail. You are a remarkable man. You are such an able man that you are the principal chief of these thousands of your people. But Spotted Tail, you cannot read or write. You claim that the government has tricked your people and placed the lines of your reservation a long way inside of where it was agreed that they should be. You signed that paper knowing only what the interpreter told you it said. If anything happened when the paper was being made up that changed its orders, if you had been educated and could read and write, you could have known about it and refused to put your name on it. Do you intend to let your children remain in the same condition of your ignorance in which you have lived, which will compel them always to meet the whiter man at a great disadvantage through an interpreter, as you have to do? As your friend, Spotted Tail, I urge you to send your children with me to this Carlisle school, and I will do everything I can to advance them in intelligence and industry in order that they may come back and help you. Consent to
Got them through
send.
the children.
Yeah.
Got them through the children.
Hmm. Consent to send student. Oh. Consent to send students to Carlisle was often gained with concessions, such as the promise to allow tribal leaders inspect the school soon after it opened. The first group of inspectors, some 40 Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota chiefs, representing 9 Missouri River agencies, visited Carlisle in June 1880. Other tribal leaders followed. Before tribal delegation returned home, they usually spent a few days in Washington where they received the plaudits of government officials for allowing their children to participate in the Carlisle experiment. Some tribes initially consented to sending their children to off reservation boarding schools, but many were skeptical of the school system and its intentions. Many tribes did not believe the promises of the schools, scared by the genocidal tactics of the U.S. government. Once students were in school, communication with home was virtually cut off. Letters from parents were left unsent by Indian agents, and parents were not notified promptly when their children died.
Did they die?
Right,
These thousands of children were given brand new names. So
right,
did they actually die?
right.
Or did they just recategorize them as something else?
And when you get a child young enough and you're doing all this, you don't think they might forget? Because I'm pretty sure.
But
Although,
children, they're saying 6. Sorry, Gabriel, just real quick. They were saying the youngest is being 6 years old.
yep,
So that means you had the majority of these children. All they knew about Indian culture was what outsiders taught them.
yep,
See how you erase a history, a
Mhm.
culture?
yeah. Yeah.
Children are the most valuable thing that you have. And once you let someone else start implanting and teaching them how they want them to see the world, you just sealed your fate. We got to wake up, y'all. We cannot let this keep repeating itself. We got to take on the responsibility.
You know, World War I was in what year?
1914, if I remember correctly. It's like 1913, 1914, somewhere around there.
You know, I find it very okay. I'll put a pin into it. Although the Civilization Fund Act of 1819 The Civilization Fund Act was an act passed by the United States Congress on March 3rd, 1819, that encouraged activities of benevolent societies in providing education for Native Americans and authorized an annuity to stimulate the civilization process. Okay. Although the Civilization Fund Act of 1819 required parental consent for children to be sent to off-reservation boarding schools and children were regularly forcibly removed. The practice of forceful removal was justified because Native parenting practices were seen as inferior to mainstream white parenting styles. John S. Ward, a United States Indian agent, explained that the parents of these Indian children are ignorant and know nothing of value of education. Parental authority is hardly known or exercised among the Indians in this agency. The agent should be endowed with some kind of authority to enforce attendance. The agent here has found that a threat to depose a captain if he does not make the children attend school has had a good effect. Wait, what? The agent here has found that a threat to depose a captain if he does not make the children attend school has had a good effect.
This is how they had the captains and stuff kidnap the children.
Right.
It's about, all right, it's either you're going to do this or you out of here. But still you have a choice.
Right.
And you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't remove the responsibility of those who choose to participate in kidnapping children. By no means necessary.
Ward reiterated the United States government's self-appointed position as a patriarchal ward over natives. The government seemingly felt that they were a parent justifiably forcing a childlike nation to do what was best for them. The denial of native parental rights was finally legalized in 1891 and led to the mass forced removal of native children. It wasn't until 1976, when the Indian Child Welfare Act took place, that the forceful removal of native children from their parents ended. 1976.
Mm-hmm. Makes you think when you hear older relatives talking about how they was taken from home and forced to go to school.
Yeah.
Makes you look at them stories a little bit differently, huh?
Absolutely. Because the only understanding I had when I was younger was boarding schools. You know what I mean? But I didn't look at it. Yeah. American Horse. Oglala Lakota chief, American Horse, was one of the earliest advocates of Western Euro immigrant education for Native Americans. While recruiting at...
Go
ahead.
So that alone tells you this was a child who was given this name and sent back and eventually became a chief.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. American Horse was one of the earliest advocates of Western Euro immigrant education for Native Americans. While recruiting at Ridge Reservation, Captain Pratt met strong opposition from Red Cloud, who distrusted white education yet had no school age children himself. American Horse took a lively interest in what he had to say. He was a tribal leader and head of a large household with at least 10 children. He was a sophisticated man and believed that his children would have to deal with whites and perhaps live with them, whether they liked it or not. He decided to send two sons and a daughter for the first class at Carlisle. Huh. Model U.S. Indian boarding schools. Pratt was so successful in his correspondence and methods that many Western chiefs suffering from cold and hunger on their reservations begged him to bring more children east. The chiefs also wrote to Washington with the request to educate more of their children. News of the educational experiment spread rapidly, and many came to Carlisle to volunteer services and professional talents. Pratt developed a photographic record of the school for publicity and documentation. The institution and the school were photographed during the school's existence by approximately a dozen professional photographers. The first and best known photographer of Carlisle Indian School was John Nicholas Choote. Oh. John Nicholas Choote was an American photographer in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, known for his glass plate negative images of the Carlisle Indian School, scenic shots and images of the town and townspeople. College has a collection of his glass plates. Interesting. From 1848 to 1902. Okay. After Indian dress was replaced with military uniforms and their hair was cut in Anglo fashion, the Indians' physical appearance was transformed. Pratt, in an effort to convince doubters of his beliefs, hired photographers to present this evidence. Before and after contrast photos were sent to officials in Washington, friends of the new school, and back to reservations to recruit new students. The minimum age for students was 14, and all students were required to be at least one-fourth Indian. Okay. So it's saying the minimum age for students was 14, but we've already seen that the youngest has been 6.
Mm-hmm.
And this is starting in the late 1800s, and it's saying that all students were required to be at least one-fourth Indian.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the Carlisle term was 5 years, and the consent forms which the parents signed before the agent so stated. Before the agent so stated. Pratt refused to return pupils earlier unless they were ill, unsuitable mentally, or a menace to others. Wonder what a menace to others is. Wonder what unsuitable mentally is.
Programming. Let them tell it. You don't want to go along with the program.
Between 1899 and 1904, Carlisle issued 30 to 45 degrees a year. In 1905, a survey of 296 Carlisle graduates showed that 124 had entered government service, and 47 were
Mhm. Let that marinate for how many went into government service?
124.
Just because they didn't graduate did not mean they ain't go to work.
Right. 47 were employed off the reservation. Anniversaries and other school events were magnets for persons of distinction. Senators, Indian commissioners, secretaries of the interior, college presidents, and noted clergymen were accustomed to presenting the diplomas or address the graduating class upon these occasions. The gymnasium held 3,000 persons and was generally filled with an audience of townspeople and distinguished visitors showing their support for aspiring Carlisle students. Carlisle, Pennsylvania, community. In 1880, Carlisle, Pennsylvania was a thriving town as a borough and county seat of Cumberland County, west of the west of the Susquehanna River, with a population of 6,209 people. The shoe factory in town employed over 800 residents. There were 2 railroads, 3 banks, and 10 hotels in Carlisle by the time Pratt established his school. By the late 19th century, there were 1,117 colored residents in Carlisle. What? Okay. Carlisle.
I wonder where they came from.
Right.
These are relabeled Indian children as adults with families now. Now they colored. And they would go for it because they don't know nothing else because you taught them this.
Uh-huh. Carlisle boasted a low unemployment rate and a high literacy rate at the time of the census. 1880. Okay. 1880 would have been a census. It was considered a good location as it was not in a big city. It was not so far west that the students would be able to run away back to their families. It was not so far west that the students would be able to run away back to their families. The historic Carlisle Barracks, established 1757, afterwards site of the U.S. Army War College, 1901, and U.S. Army Heritage and Education Center, 1967, were vacant and available for use. The military site was less than 2 miles from an already well-established educational institution, Dickinson College, founded 1773, chartered 1783. When the Indian students arrived in Carlisle on October 6, 1879, they were in tribal dress. For the people of Carlisle, it was a gala day, and a great crowd gathered around the railroad. The older Indian boys sang songs aloud in order to keep their spirits up and remain courageous, even though they were frightened. For years, it was a common event for the people of Carlisle to greet the Carlisle Indian football victors on their homecoming, led by the Indian School Band, and Carlisle Indians paraded in their nightshirts down the street of Carlisle and on to the school on the edge of town. Residents of Carlisle stood on their doorsteps and cheered as the Carlisle Band led a snake dance from one end of the town to the other. What?
And you know what? I don't know if you caught on to it.
Mm-hmm.
Sad part is, Gabrielle, this is the second reiteration of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first was done on, again, the Indians that was on the East Coast.
Correct.
That's where you get your Hampton. That's where you get your original Indian boarding schools. How do you think Carlisle knew? How do you think they knew they can do this?
Right.
And you notice that they're doing this again to the Plains and Western Indians, because you already did it to the Eastern Indians. Who's the instructors that's teaching? Didn't he say he had Indians that was already speaking English?
Yep. They were used as translators.
Because think about it, you got what? Dartmouth College would be the first. And it's kind of funny, it's how you basically create the image of the Indian that they wanted, if you think about it. Because you can completely erase as much as possible of the Eastern Woodland Indians, Northern Indians as possible. Then you come back in the 1800s and you bring Indians from the plains. And that's, if you think about it, that's the pictures and stuff that you get now when you try to look up Indian. But that should make sense on why you get that, because what did they do? Propaganda to brag and show off a program, correct?
Yeah.
So even the image that you can look up on Google of an Indian is their version of what they wanted an Indian to look like. Children that they raise in a particular way and use them as puppets.
Okay, so the schools that they established, the boarding schools that they established in the South, that's where they used most of those students together became part of the 32nd Virginia Infantry in the Civil War.
Mm-hmm. You had some that went to the 7th, some that went to the 24th, some that went to the 25th.
Yeah.
And you know these as Buffalo soldiers.
Yep.
You wonder why you're doing genealogy for some of us who have ancestors on the East Coast. And you'll see some members and then they just completely disappear. You never see them again. Grand Rising Copper Indio.
Grand Rising Copper.
Grand Rising, everybody.
How you feel about what we've gone through so far? Oh, I'm sorry, Gabby.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm still getting caught up. I had to fix a bunch of stuff earlier, but no, go ahead, keep reading.
Okay, so in the South, when they established these boarding schools, they did it from ages 13 to 20, boys and girls. And the wealthy families, once they graduated, would take these children in.
Mm-hmm. These are the Indians that before pictures, before publications, because we're talking 1600s, 1700s. Remember, they started a lot of these boarding schools. What were they before then? Churches.
Yep.
Missionary.
Mm-hmm. I've mentioned it before that a lot of the churches that you see in North Carolina, northern North Carolina, like in Berkeley County, missionary Baptist churches. So what does that tell you that they were there for? They were there as missions at first to convert people, and then those missions turned into churches. They turned essentially each little village into a congregation of a church. And whoever was acting as the chief or acting as the clan leader, clan mother, or whatever have you, those would be the leaders in the church.
You know what these boarding schools were called in the South? Oh no. Okay, it's not funny. I'm not laughing because it's funny. They were called seminary schools.
Told you.
Yep.
The schools were generally small and often several grade levels were taught in the same room. Testing was often oral, and children memorized and recited more often than they wrote. Indeed, there is some evidence that the phrase towing the line, which I didn't know this, I thought it meant something else, but okay, relates to the practice of making children stand at a line on the floor when reciting their lessons. Memorization. Cato.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, just real quick, mnemonics, memory, remembering facts or remembering ideas that you're given.
Mm-hmm.
So think about the situation. You're dealing with people that, for the most part, have oral history, and that learn everything through either oral direction or remembering facts and ideas orally. They're being told something and they remember it. They're not using writing the same way a lot of the people in the colonies were. So that's how they would teach them. And that was slowly used to bring them, because if you can change the ideas they're taking in orally, or audibly rather, by ear, and they learn to recite and repeat these same things. Bones and I were talking about, this is a while back, how a lot of the nursery rhymes and a lot of the little songs that children would sing were mnemonic devices, getting them to remember certain things that the colonies needed to act on against their interest. They would remember them, and so they would internalize them.
Repetition is the father of learning.
That is, and that's the medium for propaganda as well.
True.
Man, I'm gonna go back to reading to the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, but I want to read this real quick if you don't mind, because I do a copper real quick. Listen, school was an important topic in the lives of most children. Few states provided universal public education. In communities throughout the nation, local church congregations and civic-minded citizens started schools. The teacher was often left largely to his or her own devices, and the day-to-day running of schools was based more on the teacher's practices than the board's policy. The agricultural economy in both North and South dictated school schedule, and children were excused from school during the months when they were needed to work in the fields. The modern practice of closing schools for long summer breaks is a holdover from this practice.
Mm, mm, mm.
And that's
How many of us went to go visit our relatives doing at the farms and stuff during the summer? Think about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You get to see the repetitive cycle.
I find it interesting because it ends with corporal punishment was used and even encouraged. So I'm going back to
Corporal punishment like a whip.
Uh-huh.
They would try to say slavery.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They taught in the South, to teach in a school for free blacks. This is 1800s. Just saying. I'm going back to Carlisle Industrial School to continue reading. Wow. Shout out to you, Bones. Appreciate you, because that would make sense. How would you know how to implement something like this and to this extent, unless you've already done it before?
Oh, and it clarified, lashings are not the only form of corporal punishment. No, correct. It is a form of corporal punishment.
Right. Oh, and just to kind of throw it out there real quick, from what I've pulled, the first seminary school was established in Florida. The second one was in Tennessee.
Oh, go ahead, Copper.
Just to throw it out there real quick, questions, comments, concerns, or corrections, please email us at thetimesmithsembly@gmail.com.
And David Corey said something in the chat, and it reminded me of a conversation I had some years back with my father, when he was like, he realized a lot of conditions that parents did with their children and how they disciplined them was something that was beat into them, that was beat into the generation before them, and that was beat into the generation before them. And when you study it and you look what it's attached to, is it in the household? When that happens, it's in the form of discipline.
Yeah.
Just something to think about. How much have we adopted and don't even know?
No, you're right. You are. You're definitely right. There's a lot of
Peace to the chat. Let me give a shout out to the chat. Let me do a roll call. My bad, y'all. I'm back. No more Chromebook.
You got it.
Michael Brown, Harris Cheek. This is at 10:40 a.m. So anybody before that, working my way down, not up. Big Hawk, Grand Rising. David Corey, Grand Rising. Copper Color Ancestor, Peace, Grand Rising. David Taylor, Grand Rising. Trab Bab, what up? Grand Rising. Lachey, Grand Rising. Peace to David Taylor. Monty Jack, Grand Rising, and welcome. Who else we got here? Mr. TJ, peace. Who else we got? The Ohio Play, PG's and Pope, Grand Rising. And the panel. Shout out to y'all. Diaspora L. Grand Rising. I ain't forget you. I'm going on mute.
Whenever you're ready to continue, Gabrielle. So it's gonna be a good one.
I got some other questions because
Go ahead.
no, this is on looking at these historical Black colleges and alumni groups and
You mean originally Indian boarding schools, and before that these seminaries, missionaries?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they got in. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's the building. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about from Beaufort to Camden, South Carolina, to
Mm-hmm.
Laurinburg, North Carolina, Snow Hill, Alabama,
Hoorah.
New Orleans, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee. What?
Hey, guess what? Let me show y'all something that a lot of people probably missed. Don't these historical Black colleges still do the line set with the bands? You know, the same one that they did here at the Red Cloud area? Huh? Don't we still be stamping? Huh? Doing them dances? Uh-oh. Wasn't this the ritual that they did at these Indian schools?
Question. Why is it that some of the list of these schools that I'm looking at that were founded by, I got my air fingers up, Black people, why is it that they attended boarding schools themselves? So they, oh man.
Don't they tell you often when you have these colleges set up that you're educating the next generation's leaders?
Yeah.
Okay, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise when you have Indians that go to these Indian schools, these boarding schools, and they end up becoming leaders. They end up in positions of leadership, whether at the tribal level or whether in the county level or in local politics. That should not be. That is not a coincidence, and that shouldn't be dismissed. And consider this as well. What does? Let me go back to the image here from the article. When we're talking about industrial school now, where was this at? War. Okay. That let's see here. All the school's property known as Carlisle Barracks is now part of the U.S. Army War College. War. Wow. Okay. So if knowledge is power, and you need power in warfare, why would you not control the education of children? Like what we were talking about before with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. What was that originally? What was that part of originally? The War Department. So any interface they have with us, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So any interaction they have with us is part of war. So why would anyone think that these people were out here giving us anything for our best interest? The Bible gets cited often. You know, why would people give the slaves the Bible when it's not in their interest? It's further than that. It goes far further than that. Because the same schools that we send our children to are offshoots of this, as we're seeing right now. So, but they, in their own history, they write it as in there was conquest, and this romanticized. There was conquest, there was famine, there was plague, and all of a sudden this land was clear for us to just take over. Oh yeah, by the way, there's all these Negroes that built stuff for free. But this is showing you not only what we've been talking about in the past week, but this as well is showing you they really didn't do as much fighting as you would think. They did more than they'll admit. Sure, because you have the Indian Wars. And they never like to talk about those. But another vector in this attack on our people was education. Now you the mic.
See, we have someone called in, Grand Rising. How you doing, brother?
Shout out to Oak Cliff Tiff in the chat. Pamela Hall in the chat. And welcome to the caller. You can unmute whenever you feel like it. Star 6. Oh no, they didn't dial in.
You had a question or something, or just came hang out on the panel?
You got a little bit of chop it up in you as well, Bones.
I'm finna switch over real quick.
I'm sure the usual suspects was here earlier as well. Liz Robinson, Mike Easton. Shout out to P. Parker if she was here.
Yeah, we can continue whenever you're ready.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I said you can continue whenever you was ready.
Okay. Carlisle, that is okay. Dickinson College. Carlisle was also home to Dickinson College, less than 2 miles from Carlisle Indian School. Interesting enough, I just put a list of all the boarding schools that were established to their oldest dates, and this college is actually on that list. Interesting. What?
Talk
What
about
did you
connecting
do,
some
Bob?
dots.
Man, what
Look,
did
he ain't
you
doing. Look, he gave you one of them, the dot art where you just go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, or the letters, and it's a giraffe. No, it's not a giraffe.
Man.
This ain't no giraffe.
It's a giraffe. Long neck. What is going on?
This ain't working out.
Man. I mean, when I tell you, I pulled this list, this goes all the way back to the 1700s. And when I tell you, it's covering states. And when I tell you, some of these names are, you look at them and you're like, hold on, is that a tribe? What? I'm reading. What did you do, Bones? And they would have got away with it too. All right. Carlisle was also home to Dickinson College, less than 2 miles from the Carlisle Indian School, America's 16th oldest college. Dickinson College and Carlisle Indian School collaboration began when Dr. James Andrew Macaulay, president of Dickinson College, led the first worship service at the Indian School in 1879. James Andrew Macaulay was a 1822 to 1896 was a minister of the Methodist Episcopal Church and served as president of Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania from 1872 to 1888. It was Mr. Pratt who initiated the contact between the Indian School and Dickinson. Upon Pratt's absence one Sunday, Miss Pratt wrote to President Macaulay and requested his aid as a minister, which he graciously accepted. The relationship did not stop there, with Richard Pratt noting that. From that time forward, Dr. Macaulay became an advisor and most valued friend to the school. The collaborative effort between Dickinson College and the Carlisle Indian School lasted almost 4 decades. That's 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
From the opening day to the closing of the school. Dr. Macaulay helped Pratt to develop a board of
Mm-hmm.
I realized just now, I guess
But you don't like
expanding.
trust?
No, I'm thinking about the records we're pulling where it looks like they may be European or English or whatever, and they're not because of the
And
name.
they're
And
not.
we're
That's
probably
just their new created identity.
and we're
Mm-hmm.
going down the wrong path, pulling the wrong people. Just a thought.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Because a lot of these Indians, this is not their real name. This is what they renamed them. So
right.
now, if you think about it, if they never knew their family, some of them, or some of them went back, how do you tie them in when they have brand new names? They're on record on files. Everything's been changed.
And wealthy families were taking in these children. So if the family took them in and they take, you know what?
And the family came from England. Why wouldn't they put the children down there if they're giving them new identities?
Right.
All the children, remember what they said? All of them didn't go back to the tribes. Some of them did. Some of them went directly, well, over 100 and some of them went directly to work for the U.S. government.
Right. Which would make sense why some records that I pulled where the child didn't have the same last name or title, now that I have that understanding. Shout out to you, Bones. Appreciate you. Didn't have the same name or title as the mother and father. Like, what happened? You know what? Okay, I'm reading. I'm thinking.
Now, you ready for the double whammy real quick? You ready for the double whammy real quick? Was gonna hold it, but
I got my
might as well
helmet
let it go.
Got my helmet on. I'm
If
ready.
Indians from boarding schools are going back to the tribes and becoming chiefs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now you have Indians who are leaving these boarding schools to go work for the government, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So when these chiefs and these government officials are negotiating for tribal trust and lands moving forward, wouldn't that be boarding school Indian negotiating with boarding school Indian, both working for the same team?
Oh, man.
Think about it.
Actually, boarding school, they were in the military. So that's the military working with the military.
They were making, basically, negotiating on both sides of the deal.
Yes. There's the lock. There's a lockout.
Yeah.
It's
Because
not
that. Oh, go ahead, Carlisle. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how different is that from some of our more modern Negro leaders who are educated, who are indoctrinated, but the same people that we're supposed to be against, the waging war on us. These same people come from there, come back to our communities and say, "Hey, something has been done wrong to y'all. We're gonna go talk to the same people that you're supposed to be fighting against." Well, wait a minute, they taught them. They acculturated them. They assimilated them. So now is it any surprise that they go up to the big house and talk to the man, work a deal out with them, and they tell everybody, "All right, now go on back to your house, go on back to your liquor store and just forget what happened. We got it done." Same thing. You talk about certain reverends that would lead us in the community, how they show up whenever there's a controversy, whenever people feel like they've been done wrong. They don't really do anything of substance. They just kind of come there and bring the media with them.
Right.
Then all of a sudden,
Nobody never questioned. Oh, go ahead. Nobody never questioned why these same reverends somehow have political connections. Think about it.
Even got shows on MSNBC. Ain't that something?
They on political platforms. They talk politics. So is there really a separation between church and state? Or is that the illusion? Because they're on both sides of the coin.
Right. Religion is politics.
Both sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
I told you, replace the big G God in the Bible with the other big G, and you'll see what the government is up to.
I'm still tripping off of
Mhm.
how I go to Dollar Tree and be spending my little bucks, be spending my $20 and my $10. I'm still tripping off of that. I am still tripping off of that.
Come on, Miss Gavin.
Okay, I'm gonna finish reading. I'm gonna try to finish. I'm gonna try and finish reading. Okay. Where was I at? President of Dickinson College led the first worship service. Okay. It was Ms. Pratt who had initiated the contact between the Indian School and Dickinson. Upon Pratt's absence one Sunday, Ms. Pratt wrote to President Macaulay and some people's last names, it's the title and it's their first name. And requested his aid as a member, which he graciously accepted. The relationship did not stop there, with Richard Pratt noting that from that time forward, Dr. Macaulay became an advisor and most valued friend to the school. The collaborative effort between Dickinson College and the Carlisle Indian School lasted almost 4 decades. From the opening day and the closing day of the school. My bad, I had to catch my place. Dr. Macaulay helped Pratt to develop a board of trustees and a board of visitors composed of different heads of leading national educational institutions and wealthy donors. Is that... that's like a co-op, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dickinson College professors served as chaplains and special faculty to the Indian School. And college students volunteered services, observed teaching methods, and participated in events. Dickinson College also provided Carlisle Indian School students with access to Dickinson Preparatory School, Conway Hall, and college-level education. Thomas Marshall was one of the first Native American students at Dickinson.
You wouldn't know it by looking at Thomas Marshall, though. When I mean that, I mean the name.
I'm just tripping off of the fact that it's Marshall and what we refer to as Marshalls. I'm on, my mind is going. I apologize. My mind is really going. Carlisle.
Oh, some of those were Indians too. Some of those were Indians. Believe that.
Oh. Carlisle
You
is
send the Indians out this. Oh, never mind.
No. Come on.
Why wouldn't some of your first marshals come from these same schools? Especially if marshals are dealing with Indians. When you use an Indian to deal with an Indian, wasn't that their plan the whole time?
And Marshall is a title, right?
Mm-hmm. They keep saying agency is an agent. They letting you know from these schools, hundreds of them went to go work for the government. Last I checked, ain't the U.S. Marshals part of the government?
Yep. Carlisle is also home to the Dickinson School of Law, 1834, now part of the Pennsylvania State University. And in the early 1900s, a few Carlisle Indian School graduates attended the law school. Albert A. Exendine, Ernest Robitaille, Hastings M. Robinson, Victor M. Kelly, and William J. Gardner. Hold on. Albert.
Think about it. All reprogrammed Indians. All reprogrammed Indians.
Albert Andrew Exdine was an American football player, coach, and lawyer. He played college football at the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, where he was an All-American end. Exendine served as the head football coach at Otterbein College, 1909 to 1911, Georgetown University.
Makes you look at it how some of them football players back in them early games were doing particular moves. Their hue might have been a little bit lighter. But remember, you can't judge an Indian by the color of his skin, y'all.
Nope, you can't.
These are Indians from the plains and the western part that they brought over to the eastern part, educated them. Some of them were in these early football programs. You wouldn't know it by the names because they told you they kidnapped them as children and renamed them. Uh-oh.
All right. Ernest Robitaille was a member of the Wyandottie Nation. He entered the school on August 24th, 1899 and departed on June 12th, 1900. He also in 1933, he was a pioneer attorney who deserted the law for the fickle fortunes of oil fields.
Oh, so this is
my bad.
Indian. And he went into the law. Now he's going out here to make money and move other. Man, do you see?
Hold on. You know I gotta click whenever they put something in red highlights, and that means they're not trying to tell you what it is. You know I gotta search their name just to make sure. Okay, Hastings M. Robertson in World War II. Okay, he served in World War II. That can't be right. Wait, is that right?
What's that?
Hold on. Boarding school. Okay, this is in 18. Okay, they graduated in early 1900s. Let me click on this real quick and make sure it's the right year. He also practiced in law and civilian draft registration. Okay, enlisted in World War II, drafted and served in World War II.
Yeah, I just pulled this draft card in the school information. Because the Carlisle School, they have an Indian School Digital Resource Center.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of these records.
Oh, okay.
Indians indoctrinating Indians to indoctrinate Indians. My head's spinning.
Yeah, mine too, because, okay. William Jennings Gardner was an American football player, coach, and law enforcement agent. While working as a prohibition agent in Chicago, Illinois, Gardner served with Elliot Ness's Untouchables, a group of hand-picked federal agents from 1930 to 1932. Excuse me, I'm confused. What?
Yeah.
Excuse me. What does it mean that Gardner served with Elliot Ness's Untouchables? What?
Yeah, the Untouchables, you know, the ones with that phone and all that. Yeah. We done mentioned it before, and people laugh, and we be like, "You'll be surprised."
I'm not laughing. It's funny.
No, I'm not talking about what you laughing about. When we've been trying to tell people, you'll be surprised when you do the research. You're gonna find out that there's a lot of Indians behind a lot of this stuff.
Yes. I'm wondering, Hastings M. Robertson, I'm wondering if he has anything to do with Hastings Law. I'm reading. I'm reading. In 1889, Dr. George Edward Reed assumed the position of president of Dickinson College and continued the close. That's right? Close. And close. Okay, my bad. Continued the close relationship between the Indian School and Dickinson College through Pratt's departure in 1904. Reed told an audience at the Indian School that we who live in Carlisle, who come in constant contact with the Indian School and who know of its work, have occasion to be agreeably surprised with the advance we are able to see. In June 1911, Reed addressed the 128th commencement of Dickinson College, where he presented an honorary degree of Master of Arts to Pratt's successors, Superintendent Moses Friedman, for his work at the Carlisle Indian School. Professor Charles Francis Himes was a professor of natural science at Dickinson College for 3 decades and instrumental in expanding the science curriculum. Professor Hines took an interest in the Carlisle Indian School and his notable lectures on electricity, why does it burn, lightning, and gunpowder received a favorable reaction from parents and students. Himes lectured to Chiefs Red Cloud, Roman Nose, and Yellowtail. And brought Indian students to Dickinson Laboratory to give lectures. Himes also promoted Carlisle's succession in national academic circles. Hold on, question. This is, what year is this that they're saying they did this?
What, 1889?
That they're saying that they brung, Himes lectured to Chiefs Red Cloud, Roman Nose, and Yellowtail.
Oh, 1911?
Okay, so...
No, hold on. Yeah, I would say like around 1911, because that was the last date shown so far. I haven't put an updated date.
question.
So we'll say anywhere 1900s.
Okay, because I was about to say, it says that Red Cloud died in 1909 and Roman Nose died in 1868.
So we know it's somewhere it has to be before there now.
Got you. Okay. And brought Indian students to the Dickinson Laboratory to give lectures. Hymns also promoted Carlisle's success in national academic circles. Luther Standing Bear recalled that one day an astronomer came to Carlisle and gave a talk. The astronomer explained that there would be an eclipse of the moon the following Wednesday night at 12 o'clock. We did not believe it. When the moon eclipsed, we readily believed our teacher about geography and astronomy. Oh my goodness. These are things they would have naturally known. These are things they would have naturally known. So they took...
If they was not stripped away from their culture.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
So you give it back to them. Now they looking at you like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma, what you talking about? I don't want to hear that. My teacher said, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then now do you also see why they kept channeling Greece and Rome and Egypt? Because they felt like once they took your stuff and sold it back to you, you were in amazement the same way they were in amazement when they learned about what the Greeks had done. So they fashioned themselves as gods among men. That's what that saying is talking about. Gods among men. The Greco-Roman gods and Egyptian, in some cases, gods among men that can do all of these fantastic things. Why is science so important now? Why has that even usurped religion?
Right.
Because they needed a new tool to remain as gods. You don't fear religion, so they're going to give you science because you're not going to go and spend 8 years in college and get a degree in whatever have you. You're not going to become a PhD in physics. So how can you tell them that they're not telling you the truth? They're just taking things your people already knew, like you said, and sold it back to you.
Make you really think, huh?
David Taylor put in the chat, all these righteous deeds. I guess I should pull my pants up and stop being a victim and pull myself up by my bootstraps, huh?
You already know what my answer be. Simple solution.
Right.
Stop letting them build the institutions for us. Stop letting them educate our children. And you don't have to start a war or be radical to do this.
Right.
The same mechanisms that are used to do this are the same mechanisms you use to get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Okay, they built in schools that's misleading, there's plenty of information now. Just like Copper Indio said, it's hard for you to say otherwise if you're not putting up the institutions to say otherwise. I mean, that's the simplest thing to me to do. Just we take the responsibility, take these same mechanisms and build what we need to build with them. Because the problem isn't the mechanism. It's who's controlling the mechanism for what purpose.
That door works both ways. And if somebody can walk in your house and take your stuff, They came in through the door, didn't they? You can send them back out through the door. And I don't mean actually pick up and remove people. I'm talking about make people stop taking your stuff and selling it back to you. You know this is your place. You know this is your home. Treat your community like this is your home then. You have all
we start back producing we start back producing for ourselves, Carper. You're right, like it's our home.
Exactly. We keep talking. You hear a lot of people talk about we the landlords, and that was a fact. But we living like tenants. We not even living like tenants. Half of us are living like squatters. Like we on the run from somewhere.
Tell them about it.
So maybe it's time to go ahead and put our infrastructure back together like we own the place. Since we're the landlords, you can't claim that you're a landlord and still renting and still squatting, still looking around to see if anybody see you in your apartment.
Right.
If you're the landlord, then set up the rent office then. It's not hard to do. It just takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of patience, a little bit of creativity. And look around. There's no shortage of people with all of that. It's just a matter of putting it into motion.
Truth. I'm glad you said that because, listen, the truth. How can we run around here saying we Indian, we home, and we don't even treat it like home? Most of us go through our daily lives like don't even care. I mean, really about how we treat the area that we in, how we treat each other.
There's people walking out to 7-Eleven still throwing trash on the ground. There's trash cans right there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you home though. I ain't trying to go to your house.
What, we not proud of our home? Have we become what they said we were? Savages, nasty, filthy? Have we?
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday reading where, what'd you say, double cousin poking the bear?
Better stop poking that bear.
Yeah.
And then trying to tell that. What? Didn't you poke the bear? What you telling me about it, bro?
And David Corey,
talking to the bear.
Acts become laws, but it takes an action. You got to do something. If you don't get up and do nothing, and everything around you change, but you. We got to get out of that. We got to stop waiting for somebody to do something, then we react. No, we know what we got to do. We got a problem with food prices and food shortages. Solution, we start forming co-ops and we start growing our own food. Oh, we need clothing and stuff. Okay, through this process of farming, these same crops that you farm become textiles to produce clothing. 2 industries, just for one. Oh, but hold up, there's more. You're going to need lumber and stuff because construction is not stopping. Oh, that's another one. Oh, medicine, a lot of that is natural herbs. Don't that stuff grow from the dirt too? It's just as simple as like, today is the day. I don't care. I'm going to put one seed in the ground and start from there. And there's a lot of brothers and sisters doing it. But now imagine again, enough of us do it. That's the industry right there.
Cooperation. Like Jack?
1 2 1 2.
Yep.
I mean, but don't get me wrong. I enjoy going through the history to have a better understanding on what was done. So moving forward, know how to move properly. But in me personally, it kind of burns me because I'm like, once you see what was done, how it was done, my spirit tell me, hey, it's time to do something. Let's go. Whoever ain't ready and don't mean it in a rude way. Because you can't wait, because everybody get things at different times. But again, those of us who get it now, who are in the situation to move forward now, we got to start moving forward. Time waits for nobody. And sitting back waiting for it to look perfect, it's going to run out. Then we're going to put it on the burden of the future generation. So instead of them getting in position to be the runners of these companies and these new industries, they have to start from scratch.
Facts.
When we can build it for them right now, it doesn't take that long. You'd be surprised what you can do in a year. Go ahead, no sell out.
No, I'm just saying, there's nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new under the sun. You can get this done. You can get things done. You can get a lot of things done. You got to change, though. It's on you, baby.
I mean, really. Especially when you realize it has nothing to do with a piece of paper that's going to change our situations. There's no piece of paper you can dig out of history that's going to change your situations. What's going to change our situations is us doing something. There ain't nothing to it but to do it.
That is correct.
Is it going to be easy? No, it's not supposed to be easy. And we got to get out of that too. Wanting everything's a microwave way right now. If we can't get it right now, we ain't going to do it.
Yeah,
we got to get out of that mentality. Yeah, we have to get out of that mentality.
Exactly.
And nobody's telling. Oh, go ahead, no. Go ahead, Papa.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and to go back to that squatter analogy, why was it so comfortable for us to live as renters and squatters? Because it's easy to depend on other people. It's easy to sit there and just pay a couple dollars for rent instead of having to manage the property and upkeep the property.
Right.
See, we relegated that to everybody else to do. Do you understand? That's why we got the stereotype of being lazy. That's why we got the stereotype of being the people that just sit back and let everybody else do all the work for them. We got to stop collectively, and I'm not just talking about individuals being lazy, but we got to stop as a people being lazy about this. We got to stop depending on the government to come save us when bad things happen. We got to stop depending on people from other places coming here selling us stuff at the corner store. Why are we letting other people in our communities, and again, their life, I don't have a problem with those people, but at the same time, why are we giving these people so much money? So that we can be given a hard time while we're trying to buy stuff at the store. We go to buy some tennis shoes. That's the conversation I had with a brother the other day, yesterday, about shoes, about Jordans. We sit in line while the police are walking back and forth with dogs, with canines now, so we can buy some Jordans. So we can spend hundreds of dollars to buy a $20 pair of shoes, or even less.
Well, if you incorporate customs and shipping, then
$20. it's still less than a tank of gas.
right.
Right. You know,
Ridiculous.
but this is what we've become comfortable with. This is why I say that we're living as renters and squatters on our own land, on our own property. It just takes a little bit of effort. How are other people? You gotta ask yourself now. How?
They cut you out. So how are other people? Mic check copy. They don't want them to speak. Copy, you
It's
there?
the truth, though. Oh, you probably faded out.
Yeah, it's gonna drop.
Yeah. But what Brother Copper was saying was the truth. Is that are we victims, or do we choose to be victims?
Exactly. The same politicians that have been lying to you and I for generations are telling you now that you can't have what other people are coming here to get because of privilege. Because they're somehow more privileged than you, and because slavery, and because this and that and the other, you can't have and you can't make what these other people make. They've been lying to you this whole time. Why do you think that's the truth now?
In Dysphoria L, is it bashing on our people and calling our people victims when our people really are not victims? It's lack of information. And again, who does that fall on? Because we have a choice, regardless on what others did, and we know what other people did. But it's time for us to look at the part that we play in this. And the part that we play in this is when we sit back and don't get active. Again, we can rebuild our communities. Hundreds of programs and access to resources. People do it constantly. You have a better chance of making the changes that we need by us standing up and taking on our responsibility. Allowing things to be as they are, what's going to change? Sitting back telling our people to get radical, oh, we need to fight and take something back. Stop playing. What military? What army? And then when people talk common sense, oh, you're supposed to be scared. No, that's called realistic.
That's called My Wife and Kids. Children, not the TV show.
And I say this all the time. People quick to say, well, I'm ready to die. Yeah, because that's easy. It takes nothing. Just sit there. Well, are you ready to live? Because that takes doing something. To live takes work. You got to fight to live. Change never happened to something that was just stagnant. If anything, stagnant kills things. It eventually dies. You have to keep moving. Keep it moving forward. Keep building. Because the only thing that's standing in our way, once you realize it, is us. We bought into it. It doesn't matter to the point to where if we went to their schools and they miseducated us. Ain't we having these conversations right now? And these conversations, no one is being forced to have this conversation. We're choosing to. So what happens when you take that choice and go beyond that? Go back to what our ancestors actually did. Build it. Produce for ourselves. It's shaming people to tell people produce your own food, grow your own food, and at the same time, while you're growing your own food, that you can put it in a format to benefit you and your community. And we're not saying this is the only solution. But this is a solution that we know that works. Constant proof and evidence. And brothers and sisters actually using it every day to get what they need done accomplished. So again, we have a choice to be active and to put our best foot forwards. And no matter what, to keep moving forward. Because asking everybody else that and telling everybody else we matter don't mean anything until we act like we matter. Waiting for someone else to treat us a particular way is diddly squat if we ain't treating each other that way. We have to change. You have been taught your whole life to blame someone else for your conditions. That's a fact. Ain't nobody put no gun in our communities and told us to go buy Jordans. And just using that as an example. A culture that was given to you to turn you into a consumer. When did we let someone else's culture dictate the status of a man or a woman by the shoe that's on their foot? I thought shoes were made to walk so you don't hurt your foot. I didn't know they give you status.
Oh no, yeah. Things have changed, Bones. Things have changed.
And that's what I'm saying. This is where we have to start being honest with ourselves. And the truth hurts. And we said this from day one. This is not the channel where we're going to sit here and get you fluff. We're going to look into it, and what it is what it is. But the way we get through it is standing beside each other, realizing the parts that we played in the situation to get us to this moment where we at. Yes, others did what they did, but we'll deal with that once we fix our situation. How you going to worry about somebody else's house and we don't got our house in order yet? We got to start at square one. We got to start with ourselves. We got to start with teaching the younger generation on what's really important, on what really matters. We have to start breaking away from this created culture that was given to us that keeps us in this continuous cycle of going nowhere. Like, wow, it's a lot, true. But that's where we as brothers and sisters start coming together. Because when we get the chance behind the scenes, off air, the part that shouldn't be seen by the world, where we get to conversate and we get to heal by sharing our stories and stuff to see where we all come in common. With particular morals that we share. Are we all going to agree? No, that's impossible because we all come from different experiences. But what does happen with conversation, it gives us common ground to where we meet eye to eye. And we can sit down and develop different creative ways and strategies as communities to move forward. Because this isn't about imposing no one's particular idea. This is going to take all of you doing your best part to move this forward. No one person is going to have the answer. No group of 5, 10 people going to have the answer because all of us have different conditions that we're dealing with.
Facts.
So it takes us all playing a part. So when we start drafting and putting these things together, we can make sure that the things that we built today can last the test of time. So this history of what happened to us, we can make sure it doesn't happen again. But if we don't take this opportunity to build anything, any type of protection for ourselves or the children moving forward of our culture, why are we even complaining? We might as well turn the stream off, dissolve the company, and just be some Europeans.
everyone. This is Anita.
Hello, Grand Rising Anita.
Good day. How are you doing today?
We are doing well. Well, I am. I don't know about y'all. I'm doing great.
I needed to get some more information concerning the microloan. See if I can get somebody to help me fill it out.
Almost definitely. Bones, how much time we got left on the show?
We can go ahead and start wrapping it up from here.
Okay.
Salivations.
Salutation them.
Salivations. Peace to the panel. Peace to the chat. Peace to the silent majority.
Oh, that's it? All right. Okay, cool.
That's what you want me to
No, I'm going on mute. You started with peace. I'm just saying. I don't know.
No, that's a real piece. Let me just put that's a real piece out there.
I was reaching out to see if you could help me apply for this microloan.
Is that who is that? Oh, is that Reverb? Oh, you got us on the replay. You might have to pause that. What you talking about? Or is that live?
Is that me? That's not me.
Oh, Miss Nita.
No, what was your question? I
think it was a repeat.
Farming just for the community.
No, she's actually talking right now.
Yeah.
Really
I'm sorry, I'm going on mute.
Basic planning.
I'm sorry, they had their mics off mute. Can you repeat it again so I can hear your question? Because it's kind of low.
Yes, an email would be great. I hadn't got to the library to download it yet, so an email would be great. Anita.
You said you sent.
That's
You said you sent the email.
BOLTON.
I don't know if she's on.
1800.
I don't know.
She might be on the phone.
At yahoo.com.
We might have to email her. She just gave it to us. Mic check, Miss Anita. Miss Anita. Yeah, she not listening to this. Either that or she's listening to the playback and it's 6 seconds behind. That's exactly what's happening. She's listening to the playback. Mic check. Miss Anita. Miss Anita. Is we live? Anita B. Is that Anita Baker? Wait a minute. Mic check. I think she's listening to the playback.
1, 2. All right. What you saying, Gabrielle?
She said peace. Real peace. She used her real peace.
You know you're stupid, right?
Yeah, no. I was on mute because I didn't know if I was interrupting.
No. I think she might be listening to the delay, responding to us on the delay.
Oh.
Yeah. So we were getting our wires crossed. We're gonna have to get her email address. Go ahead and salutate them. Salutations.
Okay. Let me do this.
Donations.
Hold on. Before I get my salivations out, West Africans don't have yards though. The choir has been watching ESPN during the sermon. Yes, I'm reading your stuff. Yes, I see this.
Well, don't nobody know what you're talking about unless they read the
Shout
chat.
out to Judo. Pouring out malt liquor on the ground for your homies turns your grass brown. Shout out to Dudu.
Shout out to Dudu Vision.
Okay. Salivations. Oh, can you hear me?
Nope.
All right, salivations. Continue on your genealogical journey. It is important. It is key. It is important. Pay attention. Definitely taking under the understanding, the knowing. Definitely for me, expanded on from a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago, a year ago. Names. I think I'm gonna have to start from the beginning again of who I know. But do your genealogy. There is so much resourceful expanded and important information when pulling the records for your genealogy and finding your ancestors and finding your family and just um, finding your ancestors. There's so many different aspects to pull from in getting a better understanding of knowing who you are. Pass that information along to your children. Pass that information along to your family, to your friends, so they can know who they are, so that no one can tell them who they are. Anyone saying that genealogy isn't key and that genealogy isn't important, who are they? Who's they mamas and daddies and they grandmas and granddaddies? I'm just saying, genealogy is very important and very key. Daily, for me, there's so many perspectives, epiphanies, and realizations in what's factored into pulling my family, pulling my genealogy, knowing who my ancestors are. So I can only imagine what it is on a greater scale for all of us who are pulling our genealogy, who are doing our genealogy and pulling, our ancestors and finding out who they are and who they're connected to and where they're from. Genealogy is key and it is important. Know who you are so that no one can tell you who you are. Census Day was April 1st. Do the census, not just because it's required by law, but make yourself count so that you can count. 150 years from now, who's going to come looking for you? In addition to, doing the census is one of many ways that we get our voice out there. The decennial census, 10-year census, has been extended to October 31st. We still have time. If you haven't done it, just do it. It takes
That
all
is my
of
birthday.
That is my money.
That is my neighborhood. No, do great things.
Yes, that is my neighborhood. Do the census. The decennial census, it really doesn't have many questions. I've done it. It does not have many questions. Takes all of 5 or 10 minutes. But keep in mind also, with the decennial census being extended to October 31st, that's for everyone. That's every household, everyone. But there's also the ACS census, which happens every month and every year. In addition to, alongside the decennial census happening every 10 years, that ACS census is still happening. That ACS census is sent out to selected addresses. That means not that individual, but an address. Addresses are selected. So if your address is one of those addresses that receives the ACS census, it has way more questions on there. A lot of the questions that are now on the ACS census originally were on the decennial 10-year census. They were taken off the decennial 10-year census and put onto the ACS census. That ACS census is what is in direct connection with the schools that are established or not established, the businesses that are established or not established, the communities and neighborhoods that are established, regentrified, or not established or not regentrified. It affects local elections in your local states, in your local counties, in your local cities. It affects everything. Again, make yourself count so that you can count. If your address is one of those addresses that is selected to and receives the ACS census, fill that census out. You are a representative for your neighbors. You are a representative for your city. You are a representative. If your address is selected to receive that ACS census, your address, by you being at that address, you automatically are selected to be a representative and a voice for a lot of people. Make yourself count so that you can count. Again, doing the census is one of many ways that we get our voice out there. So do the census. It is really, really important. It ties into so many aspects of our daily lives, our interactions, our daily interactions. Then it's got the agriculture census. That's the 5-year agriculture census that's coming up in 2022. Agriculture ties to everything. Agribusiness ties to everything from beginning to end. Just saying. Do the census. Make yourself count so that you can count. Peace to the panel. Peace to the chat. Peace to the silent majority. Shout out to you, Double Cousin, for these wise words.
I was about to make a joke about you in the back chat, and it's like you're laughing at the joke that I didn't make every time you laugh. But I know you're laughing at something else.
You know what? Because I can hear your intent.
On mute, through the mute button, you can hear. The intent.
I can hear your intent.
Can I tell you what it was? I'm gonna tell you what it was. I almost told Miss Nita that you will be right with her, but you'll only be another hour or two with your conversation. My bad. Go ahead.
Okay. Shut up.
Yo, I better do that census, or Gabriella's coming after you.
It's important.
Required by law.
It's
See the
really
law, Judge Dredd.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you something. Pulling the stats and whatnot from the city, county that I'm in, and even in the state, dealing with community gardens, agriculture, agribusiness. I have realized every day I pull something. I'll think I'm pulling something from over here and it leads me back to the census. I'm pulling something from over here, it leads me back to here. I talk to this person in this department and it leads me. The census, I'm telling you, the amount of people that they count in a city, if they say they're so-called white and so-called black or Indian or whatever the case may be, it is literally based off the census. And again, if you don't do the census, if you live in a city and you don't do the census, okay, you didn't do the census, but I bet you that city counted you on the census that they filled out. You live in a county, you don't do the census, that county is going to count you, period. And they're going to count you however they so fit, period. Same thing for the state. You work for a company, you don't do the census, okay, but that company counted you. So if you don't do the census, it's not like, oh, I don't do the census, I didn't participate, so, no, you're going to be counted, but somebody else is going to count you. Somebody else is going to be your voice. Somebody else is going to speak for you. So the census is really important. It, regardless of the I'm not sure of the right word, frivolous or discouraging comments and whatnot that's put out there. Truth be told, we doing our genealogy, not just to find our ancestors, to find out what they were categorized at on census. You get what I'm saying? Like, the census is a factor on so many different levels. Why not do the census? Just saying. Okay.
You good? Look, I ain't got nothing to say. I made a little joke and you went serious on me. I got you. More info.
Well,
I appreciate it.
Aren't the truest things the funniest?
Correct. Correct. Kids say the funniest things because truth.
Mommy, why she look like that? Shut up. Go.
Don't get me in trouble. My bad. Wise words.
Okay. Appreciate your wise words, Double Cousin. Appreciate you.
Huh.
There is an optical illusion about every person we meet.
Lookership.
And okay, here we go. Oh, I got stuck. All right, here we go. All right, we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. A problem well stated is a problem half solved.
I like that one right there. Yes, sir.
I do not fix problems. I fix my thinking. Then problems fix themselves.
Give me that one more time.
I do not fix problems. I fix my thinking. Then problems fix themselves.
Have them in the first place.
To launch a business means successfully solving problems. Solving problems means listening.
Hope you can hear.
I can't promise to solve all your problems, but I can promise you won't have to face them alone. History will have to record the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition. Wait. History will have to record the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. And lastly, illusions are important. What you foresee or what you remember can be as important as what really happens. Peace to the panel, peace to the chat, peace to the silent majority. On the last one, illusions are important was it was supposed to sound sarcastic. Hope I got it out there. Oh, and lastly, shout out cousin Two Left Shoes. He's always walking in circles.
All
right, what you got for no sellout?
Nothing. Questions, comments, concerns, and or corrections. Emphasize that corrections part. I don't think we got a corrective email yet. But we are willing to talk to anyone. Please email us at autonomousAssembly@gmail.com. The website is the same, autonomousAssembly.com. The forum is full of all of the, how many plus shows, Bones? 400 plus episodes
And
of
rising.
Cab Grand Rising Show. It ain't even that many days in a year. How many? Oh, that's over a year. So yeah, check out the website. The forum is available. If you got a Reddit account, you should get an Autonomous Assembly account. Stop playing with yourself. Stop playing with your life. The information is there. Hit us up. Also, the Zoom link is going to be in the chat again. The call-in number is there, 929-205-6099. ID number, 449-421-9445, pound. That's for the people who are driving right now. Stop looking at the screen. Peace to the chat. Plural. Matter of fact, let me give a last but not least roll call. What can I scroll up to? What can I scroll to? Copper Color Ancestor.
Who can you scroll to?
10:46 a.m. That's what I got. I know y'all was here before that. Anybody that was here before that, you can type in the chat. I'm working my way down. Copper Color Ancestor. Grand afternoon. We're in the afternoon. Afternoon drive. Big Hawk. Peace. David Taylor. Peace, 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 peace. David Corey. Trab Bab. David Corey, I know you're gonna be here after the show. Trab Bab. Peace. Grand afternoon. Lachey. Good to hear from you. David Taylor. Peace. Monty Jack. Grand afternoon. Where else we got? Who we got? The Ohio Player. Posting them videos. Y'all better follow Ohio Player. PG's and Pope. Where we at? Pamela Hall. What's going on? Where's she at? Calling me and cussing. Where we at? Diaspora L. Welcome back. See you mañana. David Corey again. All caps. Oak Cliff, man. Oak Cliff. Grand afternoon. Good to hear from you. Pulling a Gabrielle, stretching this out. No, I like them. Like the quotes today. Dion Lowe. Grand afternoon. I know I saw Mike Easton. I'm scrolling slow. My bad. Mike Easton, Grand Rising, L as well. Where we at? What we got? I believe that's it, y'all. Doodoo Vision, man. I guess this is a long list. I thought it was done. Grand Rising, Grand Afternoon, Doodoo Vision 2. I think somebody got something up their sleeve for later. Y'all keep your eyes peeled. Keep your oranges peeled. Let's see. Keep your grapes peeled in some cases. Some of y'all fancy. Where we at? Michael Brown Harris Cheek. What's going on? Man, it's a lot of y'all today. What's happening? What is happening? There go Mike Easton. Macadon 1. I knew I saw that earlier. I should have said it. What's going on? Grand afternoon. I'm at the bottom of the list. David Taylor again. Peace to the chats. And whoever else is on Twitch and on the website right now, peace to y'all too. Hit us up. See y'all tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
All right. What you got for him, Copy NDO?
Oh, and peace to Anita B for calling us today as well. She's not in the chat, but she's here with us today. Peace.
Well, I'm gonna be as brief as I can. Thank you all, everybody on the panel, for having me on here as always. And thank you, everybody that's tuned in, that's participating in the chat, that's listening, that's debating, that's showing this program to family and friends and the children and so forth. I would like for anybody that has the time to do it to look up a man named John C. Calhoun. Mr. Calhoun was a former vice president of the United States, very outspoken senator, if I remember correctly, and was also one of the biggest proponents for slavery in the South, and a very ardent member of the Confederate movement to secede from the Union. He is also entrenched in the War Department and what later became the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Read up on this fellow if you get a chance, and that may give you some insight as to what the Bureau of Indian Affairs had really been about in their quest to kill the Indian and save the man. This is not a game. It was not 200 years ago, and it's still not a game. And as I said before, same politicians that have lied to all of us over decades have told us that the reason why we're living on this land as renters and squatters is because of privilege of other people that somehow we don't have. When folks come from places of abject poverty around the world and come here and build businesses and make a living for themselves and still have enough left over to send back to their home country. Think about that. And that's been a long debated issue in our community. Why so many people can come here with nothing and build something that we can't? Give that some thought. And like I said, look at these people that's been involved with how they handle, and in some cases have terminated the status of Indians and turned them into Negroes. That'll give you some insight as to who, and these same people now, The same groups, same entities, the same institutions that are telling you that other people have privilege over you inherently because of the way they look, because of how they were born. All of that is false. So we had to take yesterday's discussion and the past week's discussion about what's happened to our people, along with what we talked about today, and keep that in mind as we move forward, because I know most of the people and the sound of my voice right now are doing things in their community, making moves. We even got callers here, like the sister on the panel, asked about how we can get these things done. So there's hope. There's progress. Don't let anybody tell you different. So I just want to leave you with that thought. Maybe a little bit of homework if you feel like doing it. But stay well and stay safe and stay healthy. And I'll talk to y'all on the rising.
All right, Copper Indio. Thanks again, Gabrielle and No Sellout. The active chat and the silent majority. I'm going to leave out with this. The Cat Green Rising Show is an outlet. It's an outlet of a conscious assembly to where we can put information out for those who want to know what they can do, for those who want to know about history and what has happened compared to what someone has told you. Also genealogy. But that's not the real work. The real work doesn't happen on a live stream. The real work happens when the live stream stops. When members of the community call in and we talk and find out how can we address each other's needs. And that's the part that should not be on Front Street online. Because if it's business, then it needs to be in that business atmosphere and climate. And make no mistake about it, we are here for business. And it's not as usual, because this time around, we are going to do everything in our power to access all the program and resources. And if there's not one there, we will use every inch of our power to create one, to build our institutions. So those who choosingly who want to live a self-sufficient life, re-embrace our culture, keep moving it forward so our future generations never have to go through what we go through, then here at A2, this is a start. Are we saying this is the only way? We are not saying that today, and never have we. All we're saying is we found some information that will allow anyone of our community, no matter your income level, no matter your education or school level, whatever your past is, we can push all that aside and rebuild our communities. So again, for all those who have been listening and all those who will be listening, if we're to the point to where we are really tired of business as usual, then it's time for the landlords to wake up and start back conducting business for themselves. So until we link up to the next live stream, remember we love you and peace.
Peace, everybody.
Peace, y'all.
Merchandise is not available.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.